Hi everyone, it's David Wheeler at Wycombe Wanderers and you're listening to the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. In the next hour we'll hear from manager Matt Bloomfield a couple of times. Secondly, looking ahead to the final home game of the season against Cheltenham, of course, on Saturday, and we'll be reviewing in a few moments' time that defeat against Lincoln City at Adams Park on the Saturday just gone. It's a very round the houses way of saying the weekend. Also, we'll be catching up with, in a few moments' time, Phil, of course, with our match debrief. Who, of course, provides commentary for us at Wycombe Sound and on Wanderers TV as well of all the Wanderers matches this season, both home and away. So we'll be getting his thoughts in a few moments' time on that. Also, we'll be reviewing the EFL Awards, which took place on Sunday. We'll hear from 3 generations of Wycombe captains, including the current skipper. We'll hear from the current manager and the former boss as well. Plus Adebayo Akinfenwa, who received a special Tom Finney Award at the ceremony as well. Lots more to bring you, including Knowing Me, Knowing Blues, a preview of this week's, which features the thoughts of Jason McCarthy and does contain other animals, which is one to look out for. Also, thanks to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, we'll share the memories and tributes from Anton Vircavs to Bob Dell, who sadly passed away recently, and is his funeral tomorrow. So much to bring you in the next, less than 60 minutes now, but let's start with Phil, and a disappointing result against Lincoln.
Yeah, not the result that anybody wanted, obviously. Credit to Lincoln, thought they were really well drilled, and it was the classic away performance from them, early goal, and then 5 at the back, shut Wycombe down really, really well and looked pretty solid throughout, and Wycombe couldn't find a way through. And then, the mistake comes in the second half, and then it's 2-0, and that came off the back of a spell where Wycombe were looking to sort of progress and get on the front foot, but again, still not able to really test the keeper too much. But the second goal really, really sealed it, and it was quite flat after that. And obviously quite flat after the final whistle, with the realisation the results had gone against us elsewhere, as we always suspected they would. And that was the end of that. And we now look at 2 games now before the end of the season where we have nothing to play for, which, in terms of Wycombe Wanderers' recent history, is quite an unusual sensation.
Absolutely, and it's quite hard, isn't it? Real mixed emotions, because obviously disappointment in that, as I say, the sort of fight for the playoffs now over. But on the other hand, you think 8th or 7th is pretty decent when you think of the other teams who are in the division.
Yeah, I think we're guaranteed a top 5 finish in the club's history in terms of where they are in the football pyramid. So when you look at it, sort of take a step back and look at it in that sort of frame. It's an incredible achievement, especially when you look at the division that we're in and some of the clubs that we're up against. And that, obviously that's been a narrative throughout the year. But there will always be that tinge of disappointment. Of course there will, because it's a competitive sport and we all want to be winning and getting promoted. And the fact that Wycombe have done that thing and got into the Championship in the last few years shows it can be done. And I don't think we were that far away from doing it this season, despite everything that's gone against them this season.
Because you forget, don't you, the injuries earlier on in the season, and obviously the change of manager and what the team have had to deal with.
Yeah, it's been a huge amount, and the resilience and adaptability of the team has been excellent. But we've come up short, and for people who can watch Wanderers TV as well, we've got a really interesting chat with the chairman, Rob Couhig, and he holds himself responsible, he says, and I think he realises the fine margins of this division's more than anybody. But I think the plus side of it is that we're going to get a pre-season now, a proper pre-season, and included in that is a break beforehand. Last season, losing the playoff final, you eat in sort of 4 or 5 weeks of that summer break. It was an early kick-off because of the World Cup. So it was a very sort of quick turnaround. And I don't think the Couhigs have actually had a regular off-seasons and pre-season since their time as majority owners of the club. So I think hopefully it will mean that, well, I say hopefully, I know already things are being planned already for next season, and we're not finishing this one yet. And we can only take positives from that, and hopefully we'll see the outcomes of that next season.
Obviously disappointment for the result, but were there any positives you can take from the display, any performances from Saturday that really stood out?
It feels like a long time ago already. Like I say, it's been incredibly busy this week, sort of sorting stuff out. I'd have to say no, really, because we were against a team in Lincoln who have been incredibly resolute all year. We knew that coming into the game. And not for the first time this season, I felt that we were a bit Wycombed. We see a team coming away from home, getting the early goal on this occasion and shutting up shop and being really tight. And then getting the second goal as well, and looking very difficult to break down and difficult to play against. And hallmarks of the Wycombe Wanderers team that we've grown to love over the last few years. And I think maybe that underlined that this season. That's possibly where we might be missing those points that would have propelled us into that top six. I don't want to sound too downbeat, but that was the main reflection from Saturday, and indeed the season as a whole, going right the way back to the last week of July when it all kicked off, unbelievably. But it was interesting to speak to Matt Bloomfield after the game as well. He's normally very downbeat after defeats, and especially so after this one.
Extremely disappointed. I thought that they kept feeling the ball in behind us early on and turning us. And they caused us a few problems. They got their noses in front and we had to try and start building. I was pleased we did that. Start of the second half, we kind of felt like we were building a little bit of momentum, and obviously the second goal was a real sucker punch.
Must have been the nightmare scenario, the early goal, with how solid they've been, especially of late.
Yeah, most certainly so. I think we're seeing a trend at the moment. The team's playing five at the back and making themselves hard to break down. We've seen that a number of times, and that seems to be a bit of a trend the way the game's going in League One at the moment. And they are tough to break around. Lincoln, we know they've been on a good run. 3 wins and 2 draws out of the last 5. They've come into the game on good form. But we were really pleased after the result on Tuesday night, the way we performed at Cambridge, and we came into the game with a spring in our step. So we wanted to create more. We've actually created some really good chances this afternoon. We haven't taken them, and we have to make sure we learn from this and make sure we're ready to move forward.
It leaves us without a possibility of the playoffs now with 2 games to go. How's the squad feeling?
They're very disappointed in the change room. You could see that they were all extremely disappointed and really frustrated. But we have to use this as a learning opportunity. We have to make sure that we move forward as a football club. I have a clear vision and identity how I want to do that, and it's about going and implementing that. So we've been fighting as much as we possibly can to get in the playoffs, and we're really frustrated that hasn't happened. So we have to learn from it and move forward. You've come in quite a way through a campaign of a season, which is unusual for a manager, but now you've got that window to establish yourself and your philosophy. Does that start now with 2 games to go? Yeah, I think it's a gradual process, isn't it? I spoke when I came in. This isn't a revolution; it's an evolution. I want to have my own identity. I'm my own person, but I also know what's worked for this club over a number of years. So it's about trying to align the two of those. This is an opportunity for us to take as much as we can from the time we've been here and make sure we grow and move forward, because everyone else around us is moving forward, and we have to do that as ourselves. Lots of players are committed for next season with their contract situations as well, but there will be comings and goings as well because of the summer window. Yeah, as it happens at every football club up and down the country, there'll be comings and goings. That's just a fact of life. It's a fact of football that things move on, but we have to approach these last 2 games the best we possibly can. We have to try and finish the season on a high. We have to bring some positivity into the summer, and we'll certainly be concentrating on that before we move on. Is that the message now? Finish with a home win next Saturday against Cheltenham, and then take it to the last game of the season with a bounce into the summer? Of course we want to, yeah. When you're involved in sport, you want to win all the time. I want to win at anything I do, and I want to win next week against Cheltenham, irrespective of whether the playoff push is finished or not. I will still want to win that game, and we're employed to be the best we possibly can for this football club, and nothing will deter me from being the best I can and trying to get as many points on the board as what we can. As you say, always good to hear from the manager, and important to kind of put that behind and move on, I guess. And also that weekend you had a very showbiz event, which the manager was also at as well. Yeah, the EFL Awards on Sunday night. First time I've ever been to a football award ceremony, and yeah, it was an excellent night out, and we were there in support of Adebayo Wycombe Wanderers EFL era top goal scorer, and he got the Sir Tom Finney Award, which is reflected on a recently retired player's impact on the game, and well, what an impact Adebayo has had on football and of course Wycombe Wanderers. So it was great to be there to see Gareth Ainsworth on stage presenting that to Bayo.
and then having a chat with everyone afterwards as well. And really lovely to see Bayo getting the recognition he deserves across his entire career.
And you can hear more from that night later on in the show, and of course on Wanderers TV as well. But we really must address your footwear choice, which got some interesting comments.
The great thing about Wycombe Wanderers is that red shoes are not a new thing, because obviously Gareth Ainsworth didn't look quite as red as mine on the night, admittedly. But the great thing about Wycombe Wanderers is it encourages you to be yourself and do what you like. So I very much bought into that spirit.
And good for you. So, where can you get such shoes? I'm sure you'll be like you'll be an ambassador for them or something.
Well, I'm in talks at the moment to see whether I can be the face. But yeah, Clark's Originals if you're really interested.
And looking ahead to Saturday, there's just these 2 games left, and obviously just one at home as well. But a great opportunity for fans to really celebrate with the team, if that's the right word, as to what has been achieved this season.
Yeah, I think, celebrate and pay respect to the season and the effort from all concerned, and fans as well, because let's not forget that it's the last time the fans will be at Adams Park until pre-season, or the first game of the season for some as well. And it means that you won't get to see those people who sit near or stand near or have a drink with, or before and after. So it's a bit of a closing of the door onto this campaign in every respect. And obviously the players and the staff will be out after the final whistle, no matter what the result, to pay their respect to the fans as well, and say thank you. And hopefully that's a two-way thing. It certainly deserves to be, and it will be a lovely moment on the pitch. Hopefully the sun will be out and it won't be raining. But yeah, there we are. Hopefully it'll be a nice event.
And games against Cheltenham are often tight affairs.
Well, tight affairs early this season. The ones at Adams Park, wow, there's been an enormous amount of goals scored. I think we've had 2 3-3s. Last season's 5-5 as well at Adams Park. And with Cheltenham doing incredibly well this season, considering all the change they've had to go through to be safe from relegation with 3 or 4 games to go in terms of their season. Wycombe Wanderers not able to compete for the playoffs in their final 2 games. So I wouldn't say it's a dead rubber, but teams will be playing for pride. There'll be players playing for contracts and other bits and pieces, and trying to get as high up in the table as they possibly can before the final game. This could be an open one. I don't think it'll be a repeat of the 5-5, but they've been entertaining down the years, and I'm sure this one will be equally as entertaining, but maybe not quite as many goals as last season as well.
And last home games of the season are always great events anyway, because there's player recognition with the season awards as well.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a time to reflect and look back on what's been and celebrate those players as well, and their achievements and their performances, both individually and collectively. Throughout the season, so yeah, it'll be. We'll miss it all when it all finishes, won't we? Of course, and we'll be waiting for it to start up again in August. But yeah, a time to reflect and learn and regroup and come again.
And I know something which fans are getting excited about is the growing list of players who are already committed for next season.
Yeah, there's a good nucleus there already, and I think there will be change as well coming. I think Matt Bloomfield certainly looking at this off-season and pre-season period as a time to really get stuck into establishing his sort of tenure on Wycombe Wanderers as well. Let's not forget what a season he's had personally as well. Coach at Wycombe at the start, then into his first managerial job at Colchester for 4 or 5 months in what was a really dire situation there, and turned that round in a quick time. And then talk about quick time. Then the phone rings, and on a Monday, and then you're on the motorway. Then you're the manager of Wycombe Wanderers again. This has all happened in one season. So it'd be a good opportunity for him to take a breath initially, and then start implementing what he wants to do with this club on and off the pitch over the summer and into pre-season.
And something else which is really nice about Saturday is that the Caledonian Suite will be open, and the manager will be there as well.
Yes, yeah. I think Wycombe Wanderers has always prided itself on that sort of connection with the fans, and that will continue onto Saturday as well.
So what will be your final sort of message, if you like, to fans going into this home game? Obviously, get along to it and really enjoy the afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, we won't have that tense nail-biting atmosphere that we've often had towards the end of seasons that we've got used to over the years. I think, yes, it's absolutely legitimate to feel disappointed about not being in that top six, but also, the flip side of that is taking that step back and seeing where we are in perspective of where the club's come from in the short and long-term history of this club, and using that as a platform now into next season.
Well, a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much. And will your red shoes be on show on Saturday?
Absolutely not. No, special, very, very special occasions only at this stage.
Brilliant to speak to you. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, mate.
I was really tempted to get some red shoes myself. Luke's here, a notice board special.
I went dressed as Phil's red shoes to the media session on Thursday, or Wednesday this week as it was.
You went dressed as his red shoes?
Yeah, I was wearing a red jumper.
In tribute?
In tribute, yeah.
It's Red Jumper Day.
It was good. His shoes were very red, weren't they?
A red item of clothing. Thank you very much for joining us. On the way in a few moments' time, a preview for Knowing Me, Knowing Blues, which has been quite successful so far this season. Yeah,
it's been really good. I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been a really nice way of finding out more things about the player and possibly how they think as well about Bears and Ducks.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're getting quite into it, aren't they?
They really are. They're talking about it sort of outside of the training as well, and sort of all working out about it. Would you like a sort of, if people missed it, how it all came?
Yes.
So head of all things great at Wycombe Wanderers, Matt Cecil, was thinking of an idea. The other ideas were speed of sound, where Rebecca asked quick-fire questions to the team posed by listeners, soundtrack by Coldplay.
Ooh.
Not everyone is a fan of Coldplay,
of course, yeah.
Including Johnny King, if you listen to this week's Knowing Me, Knowing Blues. The other one was Sounds of the Underground, where Wycombe Sound presenters take a trip on the tube to quiz commuters about Wycombe Wanderers, soundtrack by Girls Aloud. Now, we tried that. This is what it sounded like. Hi, I was just wondering, can I talk to you about Wycombe Wanderers, please? Oh, thanks. Yeah, as you can hear, that didn't really work.
Yeah, not so popular, that
which is why we landed with Knowing Me, Knowing Blues.
It's good that you road tested it, though, or rail tested it.
We've got to test these ideas.
Yes. Not quite so successful.
We couldn't afford the Coldplay licensing, which is why that never got anywhere.
Of course, and just approaching commuters like that as well, perhaps.
Yeah. As you heard from that one, not very happy.
No, never mind.
No.
Have you been on a train since?
No, I'm banned from London Underground now.
So, without further ado, here's this week's preview of Knowing Me, Knowing Blues, which features as its guest publication while you're here.
Jason, hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
After weeks of anticipation, you have been called up for Knowing Me, Knowing Blues.
What an honour.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, what an honour.
Ready to go?
I'm not briefed on the questions at all, so...
No, we don't
I'm not
brief
on Twitter.
Anyone.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, here we go then. So your first question is, what has been the most enjoyable part about playing for Wycombe? That's from Mike and Jamie.
Good question. There's lots of elements I love about being at Wycombe. I don't know, just the family feel of the club. I would say I'm a family man. Mm-hmm. I think this club has that. I've been at other clubs and it's given me that privilege really of knowing what I like and what I enjoy, and I think Wycombe's got that family feel, that close bond between staff, players, amongst the players, to the fans. Mm-hmm. And I really like the area. We've really settled here as a family. Footballers are always craving somewhere to settle, because it's a job you're constantly moving around.
Yeah.
And we found that here, which has been really nice. So many elements really, but that family feel, I would say.
Makes you feel at home.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Amelia would like to know, what's your favourite aspect about being a professional footballer?
It's a good question. I'd probably say, it gives you a good opportunity to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. Gives you a good opportunity gives you that platform to have an impact, and that can be on the pitch and off the pitch. Mm-hmm. So that's really good. Having a day off in the middle of the week as well, which many people don't get.
That's your favourite part, days off. Phil would like to know, after last week's London Marathon, which current teammate would win if you all entered, and who would drop out first?
I think it'd be me.
You'd win.
No. I've got to be humble.
You don't have to be.
No. The fitness tests pre-season. Now that Anis is gone, I'd like to think I'm going to hopefully take it. I know GMAC put me in the other week for the triathlon thing.
Oh yes, so that's right. He
I
did
would
actually.
like to say I'd be up there. The gaffer would have been up there, but he'd probably still join in actually, the gaffer as well. So I'll put the gaffer up there. Who else is fit? Nick Freeman, he's very fit in the fitness tests and stuff. So take your pick out of them, and then down there, not for a lack of effort, but I'd have to put our number 9, Sam Vokes.
Sam Vokes is losing. He's going to drop out first.
Yeah, sorry to sling under the bus, Vokesy, but I'm probably going to say Vokesy. Yeah, so yeah.
Tim would like to know, brown or red sauce on your bacon sandwich? I think there's been a bit of a debate going on about this one on Twitter as well, so choose wisely.
Red sauce.
Red sauce.
Yeah, red sauce.
I have to go brown, but you're not a fan of brown?
Nah, not really. My dad's a big fan of HP sauce, but I just never really had it, if I'm being honest, growing up, so no real reason behind it. I just prefer red.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. I love red sauce as well. Red sauce, brown sauce. Andy he asks this question every week. I'm hoping he's going to send some hampers at the end of the season. He wants to know what your favourite cheese is.
My favourite cheese is roulade.
Ooh, nice. We've not had that one before.
Roulade.
We've had quite a bit of mozzarella. Very nice.
Yeah.
John said, this is a good question, but this is a difficult question. If you could merge 2 different animals to create the ultimate animal, what 2 animals would it be, and what would their product be?
What do you mean by product?
I guess what's the point? What would be the point of merging them?
I need time here.
A few moments later.
Alright, so I'm just going to go off what my son likes. So, George loves crocodiles and sharks. He's always asking everyone who would win in a fight. So I'm going to say a shark and a crocodile. And I mean, the product of a shark and a crocodile, I imagine, is going to be pretty aggressive. So
don't want to come across one of them.
Don't come across one of them, yeah. But I'm going to go for them.
There we go.
Yeah.
Good answer. Would it be the shark head or the crocodile head?
I'm going the agility of a shark.
Okay.
And then the crocodile head.
And the shark tail. Okay.
Yeah, shark tail, yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
A crocodile shark. Okay, Johnny said, after you revealed your pre-match playlist on Wanderers TV, how long was your ban from touching the changing room stereo? And have you learned the error of your ways?
Wasn't that bad, was it? Was it that
Apparently
bad?
so. Johnny thinks so.
Oh, really? Sorry, Johnny. Sorry, mate. Not into my playlist. No, I'll have a little rethink. Sorry, Johnny. Hopefully I don't get the shout again.
So how long was your ban? Did you get banned from putting music on?
I didn't get banned. I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't have any other bad reviews. Sorry, Johnny. Sorry, mate.
Nobody wanted to say it to your face.
Yeah.
But Johnny did. Dan would like to know, we get this question every week, you already know it's coming. Would you rather fight a bear-sized duck or 10 duck-sized bears?
I'd rather fight a bear-sized duck.
Okay.
Definitely.
I feel like we're probably even teams now.
Yeah.
Why?
Because 10 bears, that's so aggressive. And one bear-sized duck, I feel like, first of all, ducks aren't very aggressive. And a bear, you know, how tall is a bear? How tall's the bear? I'm saying 7 foot, 8 foot. So it's a little bit bigger than me. And you can be a little bit more clever with a duck. Like, you can feed them bread, soften them up, and then...
Also, Matt made the point that ducks don't eat humans. So it might not be interested in you anyway.
Exactly. So is it even that good a question, really? I mean... It's not that hard
Jason's
to think
coming
about
for your question.
You know,
is it even a good question, Dan?
No, I don't think it's that hard to think about, really, when you think...
So that's the debate over then.
I think so.
The bear-sized duck.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining me on the sofa today. I hope you've enjoyed the questions.
I did, yeah. I know, it was good. I liked it. Thank you.
You're free to go.
All right, cheers. Nice one. Sorry, Johnny.
Excellent deconstruction of the bear and duck question as well. I can really imagine at the end of the season there'll be some sort of it's a knockout competition where there'll be just massive inflatable bear-sized ducks and duck-sized bears.
Yeah, we have had the thought of dressing someone up as the duck and just sort of having him around the training ground, just not mentioning it. So we might do that.
It's certainly got legs.
Oh, got 4 of them if it's a bear.
Second part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show on the way.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Second part of this week's Wycombe Wanderers Show, and a reminder, you can catch the full version of Know Me, Know You Please on Wycombe Wanderers social media, a 19-minute epic this week. Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show, something else you'll also find on Wanderers TV, chats with 3 generations of former Wycombe Wanderers captains. Well, one's the current captain, in fact, and Adebayo Fenua as well, who I'm sure has also led the team at some point at the EFL Awards, and we'll hear from Matt Bloomfield once again as well, who also features in that package. But first, with thanks to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, we pay tribute to Bob Dell, who died at the end of last month. His funeral is tomorrow, and we've been getting the thoughts and memories of former teammate and friend Anton Vircavs.
My first encounter with Bob was when I joined in 1980, and my first game was in the reserves away to Carshalton, and we won 5-1. And I remember Bob was in the team. It was Bob Dell, Jimmy Jacobs, Ken Wilson, and myself. We won 5-1, and we all scored. And I remember in the change rooms afterwards, the first team lost, and the mood was that things are going to have to change, and we could all be potentially in the first team, which we all managed to do in the next few weeks after that. So that was my first encounter with Bob, and he was as a player, he played to win, and he was a tough player and a no-nonsense player, and even in training, he always put in 100%. So he was a really good, honest footballer. He trained really well and played well, and he was had a great left foot. That's one of my biggest memories of him.
Because I know when we've spoken to you before, and other players from that time, what really stands out is how well you got on, but yourself and Bob especially.
Actually, with Gary Lester, there was probably four of us that were sort of gelled pretty quickly with Andy Harmon, Gary Lester, and myself and Bob. And I don't think it's a secret, Bob liked to drink. He liked to drink, and so did we. So after training, after a match, it was a great social life. And we were really lucky with the club, because the club were really good at organising end-of-season tours. And during my time there, we went various different places: Portugal, Malta, Greece, Tunisia, Italy twice. And we always had games to play. And we trained while we were abroad. So that gelled everybody together, kept everybody together. And then come the night time, we'd socialise together. And they were the best times in my life. And I can honestly say Bob was on every tour that I ever went on. And he was a great guy to be around when we were having a drink and to socialise with. It was always fun, and always had a story to tell. It was yeah. I can honestly say they were the best. Going on those tours and playing and socialising between 80 and 86 were probably the best times of my life. We really enjoyed it and built up great friendships with, like I say, Andy Harmon and Gary Lester, who sadly passed away, and Bob, who's sadly passed away as well now. So the biggest crying shame for me is that I'm not going to be able to talk about those tours and the stories we used to tell and the things we used to get up to and the memories we had, and they've been lost with the passing of Bob. So that's a real sad day for me.
It's quite a sort of unique thing, isn't it? Especially football, I think, because you share that sort of camaraderie that perhaps people in other workplaces don't get. Yeah,
most definitely. And the sad thing about it is you kind of almost live in each other's pockets for 5 years, the 5 seasons I was there at Wycombe. And as soon as you leave, it's gone. It's like you can go back the next week and it's like you don't belong there. You don't exist anymore. But in that moment between 80 and 86 were, like I say, the best times. But yeah, you do get that. It's a special sort of friendship because you're in each other's pockets and then you're not there anymore. And probably the great thing about Bob for me was that he was part of the Ex-Players Association. He got involved in that, and he would ring me, which he would never normally do, but he would ring me about what events were coming up, what was happening, and was I coming? Definitely. And unfortunately, funerals were a big thing as well. We've had quite a few funerals. And the great thing about Bob, he mellowed as he got a bit older, and I felt more friendship with him now than I did when we were players. And I was really looking forward to the next sort of 10 years of spending more time over at Wycombe, coming over and enjoying and reliving those memories with Bob. And unfortunately, that's gone now. So it's a real shame. I'm sorely missed, and it's a tragic thing to happen to somebody so young.
Of course. Well, it must be nice for you to be able to reflect on the times that you spent together. Are there any particular games or on the field occasions which really stand out?
There isn't really. There isn't a particular moment. I don't know. I don't even remember some of the games. I remember being there, but I can't remember what happened on stage or what we did. But we had some great runs. We had some great players in the team back in the early 80s. And my biggest memories, I suppose, are we played in some big games. We got to the semi-final of the trophy, which was a great performance. We won some cup games. And I think we probably really won more games than we lost. We won the league one year. We were successful in the cup games. But nothing really stands out. But what would reminds me of Bob would be, first thing is, he was a hard worker on the pitch, no nonsense, and you had to kind of earn his respect. If you weren't pulling your weight or you weren't taking it seriously, he wasn't your friend, really. You had to earn his respect, and he was a good leader as well. He was a man's man. I think that's the way of saying it. A leader of the pack. And I remember when we'd go out socialising in the evenings, he'd all have he'd had friends with him, and we all followed him. Funny thing to say, but we all followed him, and he was a great leader and a real character.
So how would you describe him as a player?
As a player, he had a lovely left foot. He was a hard tackler, and he was aggressive, and he wanted to win. I think that was it. And I can imagine. Yeah, that would be my biggest impression with Bob. He always wanted to win. When we were training, I remember we used to go long distance running when we were down at Old Lokes Park, and he'd be right at the front there, pushing as well. And yeah, but a really good left foot, yeah, great player.
And how will you remember him as a person?
He was a tough character. You had to earn his respect. And I always remember he was always, I think as a person, I remember him, I think the best thing I could say for him was every conversation you had with Bob always ended in a laugh. And if it didn't end in a laugh, it began with a laugh. He didn't take life too seriously, but there was no messing around with Bob.
And what would you say it was that sort of drew you together and sort of kept your friendship for such a long time?
I think a mutual respect, and especially I felt that more as we like I say, as we've got older. And we meet up through the Ex-Players Association, which we never met up enough. I think it was respect. I had a lot of respect for Bob. I think most people did respect him. And hopefully I felt that we'd sort of mellowed and joined, come together a lot more. And I enjoyed being around him, enjoyed his company at the Ex-Players Associations and theirs. And I look forward to seeing him. Like I say, sadly going to miss him. I was looking forward to having 10 years, another 10 years of being around Bob, or having some of Bob. I'm not seeing him every day, but he was out there. A few months' time, I would go and see him again, and I could relax, because he knew you when you were younger, and I knew him when he was younger. So there's no hiding. You don't have to pretend to be anyone. We are what we were when we were 20. We're in our early 20s. And the nice thing, you could relax around him. And I know he had a mass of friends, much more friends than I ever knew that he had around there. And of course, he was big into his cricket as well, which I never got involved with him on that.
No, people might not know that he played for High Wycombe and Bucks as well.
Yes, exactly. And that was the type of character he was. He was a sportsman and a man's man, and he liked to drink. And I always say the best times of your life when you've had a couple of drinks. You tend to enjoy things. And we had some great times and great stories. And like I say, the football tours were the highlight of the year for us, and I've got great memories of that.
And as you mentioned, his funeral obviously will be a sad time, but also a real celebration of his life and the person that he was and the contribution that he gave to the club and also the area. Yes,
that was it. I think the biggest thing for me is I never lived in Wycombe, so I never got the feeling of being, picking up the papers and walking down the street and people knowing you and just going down there. I would spend my time training and playing and socialising, and then come back to Oxford, and it was like going back into a different world. So it was a bit different. And I was thinking about our friendship actually, and he was on Bob, Andy, and Gary, and a few others came to my stag night in 1986 when I got married, and I'm always pleased to know that he was there. It makes me feel like we were real friends, and I think it was like I say, a mutual respect of Bob. He was a great bloke.
And as you say, overall, really nice to have those experiences and things that you've shared together. Yeah,
lovely. You're never going to lose them, and I look forward to seeing the other players in the future and talking about him. And it's really sad. It was a really sad thing to do. Yeah, for him to pass away.
And nice as well, in a way, to sort of keep his sort of story, if that's the right word, of what he's achieved, and to share that with other generations.
Yeah, it is good. It's always good to be remembered, and he achieved something with his life. And I know he did a lot of building work, and he built things which will be there for years to come. And he built a great relationship with Wycombe Wanderers as well at the same time, and he'll never lose that. While we're all still alive and be able to talk about him, he'll be remembered, which is a great thing to have.
Oh, it's a fantastic tribute. And how would you finally sort of sum him up really on that, and how you'll remember him, and how you think other people should remember him as well?
He was a great footballer, and he really invented the word "man's man." He was your best mate. He was the best man to be around with. If he wasn't there on a night out, I know we'd go on about night out. I don't think they do that so much anymore. But back in those days, in the early 80s, it was the football and the socialising were the same thing. It's obviously changed now, but we had some crazy nights, and we did some great memories and some great stories, and I'm really going to miss him. As will lots of others playing friends.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to chat to you and share your memories of Bob, and really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. No, it's a pleasure. Hopefully, I'm like I say, hopefully I'm representing him for the 80 to 86, the sort of times we played together, and I just want to. I'm hopefully speaking on behalf of all those players that played with him during that period in his time at Wycombe.
Former Wycombe Wanderers player Anton Vircavs speaking to us here at Wycombe Sound, remembering his former teammate and great friend Bob Dell, who sadly passed away at the end of last month. It's his funeral tomorrow, and there's a celebration of his life at the Caledonian Suite, Adams Park, as well. With thanks, as always, to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, who, as you've heard in previous episodes of the show, do great things for former players, and they've got some brilliant events on throughout the remainder of the show this season. As mentioned, not too many to go left now. We'll speak to more, and also on the last show, which is only a couple of weeks away now, we'll be having a compilation of some of the highlights, now that's what I call Wycombe Wanderers ex-players, if you like, 2022-23. So some of the best bits of our chats with former players, which will be a great listen as well. All here on the Wycombe Wanderers Show on Wycombe Sound.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Final part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show for this week. Still to come, we'll hear from manager Matt Bloomfield chatting to Phil at the media session at the training ground, which was a day early this week. And he'll be looking ahead to the visit of Cheltenham Town on Saturday. Always a high-scoring game. Well, not always, but sometimes. And very close encounters as well, as we mentioned with Phil a little earlier on. And it's the final home game of the season, penultimate game of the season, and a great opportunity to, as we mentioned a little earlier on, sort of celebrate the last campaign, and really, so hopefully go out on a high at home as well. So yes, make sure you don't miss that. If you can't get to the game, of course, we'll have full match commentary here on Wycombe Sound and on Wanderers TV. More on that in a few moments' time. But first, you also might have heard a little earlier on that Phil mentioned that he was at the EFL Awards on Sunday night, and one of the players who were honoured with a special Tom Finney Award for his contribution to football and everything was former Wycombe Wanderers legend and top goal scorer Adebayo Akinfenwa, who we'll hear from shortly. Phil also caught up with current captain Joe Jacobson, former skipper and current boss Matt Bloomfield. But first, until comparatively recently, former manager Gareth Ainsworth, of course, now in charge at QPR, but he presented Bayo with the award, and Phil spoke to him.
Akinfenwa, where do we start?
Yeah, where can you start? He's done everything. He was an incredible character when I signed him. I think about 7 seasons ago now. And he was, he was infectious the day he came in, and he was infectious the day he left, and it never changed. He was consistent throughout what he was, who he was. Such a great character to have on the place, and you talk about leaders in football and characters in football, there's no one bigger. And then on the pitch, he could turn a game on its head, absolutely turn a game on its head just with one magical moment. People don't give him enough credit for how good he was with his feet. Everyone thinks he was this big man with his head. Sensational what he did for Wycombe Wanderers, and one of my proudest moments was seeing him break the EFL Wycombe Wanderers goal scoring record, away at Doncaster. I remember that day, and that meant a lot to him, I think after his first journey in, I think it took about 2 hours from South London. Little did I know, 6 years later he'd still be making the same journey, and it's the longest stint he ever had at one club, and I'm proud to have been the gaffer for him there. It was a great send-off at Wembley in his last game.
You talk about football as in it's all about the moments and playing the big moments. What's your highlight of Adebayo Akinfenwa at Wycombe?
Do you know what? There's too many. There's too many. You just probably wouldn't be able to put a highlight reel together for this guy, because what we saw, how lucky we guys were to see it off the pitch as well as on the pitch. Yeah, of course, on the pitch there's all these goal celebrations, all these highlights, all these moments, but he was off the pitch. The highlights for me are off the pitch and what he did around the training ground, what he was with the boys, and everyone will have their own individual one. But I used to sit in my office in his last season and say, right, we need runners today, it's not you. Or I need a big one today, it's you. And every time he would go, no worries, Gaffer, you got me. And that was it. He was just great,
Brilliant. Gaffer, I think of Bayo and I picture you and him at Wembley. And that picture to me, it makes me cry thinking about it. What a guy, and to share that moment with him. Just can you put that into words?
No, it's hard to, because obviously the disappointment of Wembley that season was that there was no friends or family or supporters there, but what we did have was just those intimate moments together because there was no one else to run off to, so we sat on the pitch. I think that was probably one of my biggest memories of sharing the dressing room with him and the football pitch. He was some character, as the gaffer said already. He was a real leader for us. He was a real pivotal figure. Him coming into the football club really coincided with us really taking off, and I think above and beyond that, he was a real good friend, someone you could rely on any time of day. He'd pick up the phone, and he's just someone you could rely on and off the pitch.
I've heard him speak about you as a huge influence on him. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I think it's not very often you find someone like that you really bounce off and really kind of, the respect is mutual. It's funny because there's two guys either side of me, it's the same feelings, but I think that probably just epitomises that, time we had all together. He's just an incredible man, and he was right at the heart of everything that went on and off the pitch, and the stars aligned. We all came together in one football club at the same time and were able to achieve really big things.
You say bounce off. A few people did bounce off him down the years. I don't think he ever got the credit he deserved as an actual footballer.
No, well, it helped me in my game because he was occupying all the defenders and I could run around him, so it certainly made a big influence for me on the pitch. And I think as the gaffer said earlier on, he doesn't get enough credit for his footballing ability. He was some player on the floor, and I think maybe that was part of his mastery. He made everyone believe that he couldn't, and he certainly could.
JJ, the dressing room, everyone talked about that dressing room at Wycombe Wanderers. He was the governor of the dressing room, right?
Yeah, as well, with the gaffer as well. We had a good core group of older boys, really, and we didn't need rules, but we kind of had these unwritten rules that Bayo kind of put together, didn't he, a little bit himself. And he had that respect, though, because, if he didn't abide by those rules, then how can anyone else follow? So he was at the forefront of all of that, and of kind of putting us in our place a little bit when we needed to be. But it worked, and like you said, the scenes after Wembley when people are hugging each other, there's tears, there was those little moments like that. It all shows that he's normally in the middle of it all, and it sums him up really. The double acts in football, the great double acts in football, the Joe Jacobson cross, the Akinfenwa header. I've lost count of the amount of times I've called that. Yeah, I've said this before, he made me look like a good player for a lot of times. I could just whack the ball in the air and it would somehow find his chest, and he'd hold 4 players off and bring runners into the game. So for me, he helped me massively, he simplified my game a lot and made it very easy for me. And what we talk about him on the floor with his feet, but aerially, I don't know how the guy heads the ball so far as well. It was amazing, some of the things he could do with his head and some of the goals he scored, and he was massive for us. from the League Two season when he first came in, we wouldn't be where we are now if it wasn't for some of his goals and magic moments.
We're all looking pretty fly tonight, but he had a rule, didn't he, that you couldn't turn up for training in an outfit that was worth more than a certain amount of money. Is that right?
That is right, yeah. And used to catch people out with that. I'm fortunate my wife works in fashion, so she just brings me clothes home, so all mine are free. Yeah, he did. And that was one of the things, tried to keep everyone humble, tried to keep everyone level-headed and not get out of control a little bit. There's a few boys who lied a little bit and what they'd spent, but it was just part of what we did. And he'd go around and he'd make people, shout what trousers were worth or what shoes are worth and things like that. And if you were over the top, he'd make you know about it as well. So those little things which doesn't happen everywhere. You can't buy that. You can't just create that out of nowhere. Those things are created over time, and it's a special thing that he had at Wycombe Wanderers.
The big award for the big man. How's it feel?
Oh, it's humbling. I've said it a few times. It's humbling, and then to be able to have Gaffer give it to me, and then to see the montage with Blooms, JJ here, Matt, you. For me, you lot know how I feel about Wycombe. So to feel like I'm getting this as a Wycombe player, an extension of that. Listen, it's humbling.
The video on the screen, the love in the room, the looking back on your career. It's been a few years. It's been a few months now since you've hung the boots up. How do you feel about all of that now?
Yeah, no, listen, the worst thing is I came out of retirement, missed the penalty, so I'm retired again, officially. But no, listen, the worst thing is I paid my time in it. Like, it got to a point where, listen, the body or the knee, it got to a point, and like I said, unfortunately I didn't finish with the fairy tale at Wembley, but I'd finished, you know what I'm saying, my journey comes to an end. So I look back at it now and I stay connected through watching football, still watching Wycombe, but I don't miss actually being on the pitch. But of course when you see videos like that when we celebrated at Wembley, listen, for me that's iconic, it's memorable, but that's where it is, it's just memories now.
We've all got the goals, we've all got the clips, but what we don't have is all the kids who are watching you and being inspired, not just about football, but life.
Yeah.
And that's what we're never going to really see, the legacy, but that's going to impact a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I already said about how important for me connection is, and that still will be when on a Sunday when I take my kids football, there's still a lot of kids throughout on my socials. I try, because for me that's very important, that whole interaction. It is disappointing, well, I say disappointing, but I miss the fact of, being there on a Saturday, warm up or at the end, going to the car and you get that relation with the fans, and that's done, you know what I'm saying. But where I can, I'll still try and give my energy and have that connection.
Really brilliant to hear from Adebayo Akinfenwa. You also heard from Joe Jacobson, the current Wycombe Wanderers captain, of course, former skipper and now manager Matt Bloomfield, and former boss Gareth Ainsworth at the EFL Awards. You can hear the full version of those interviews on Wanderers TV. A reminder as well that Know Me, Known Blues is available on the Wycombe Wanderers social media accounts currently.
Yes, and on Wanderers TV and YouTube in the full 19-minute version.
Epic.
And pre-match drills this week is an hour long.
Oh.
All extended versions this week. It's
Check
good.
those out.
Yeah.
As we're heading towards the end of the season, of course.
I know. Really nice to hear from Bayo, though. And it's something that Gareth said in that is that the aura that he has around him, and whenever he's nearby, it's really something to be special, be around. And, we've been in very lucky positions where we've been able to talk to him one-to-one or just be around him. And he's such a cool guy and just makes you feel special and like you're part of something. It's really cool.
And really good with all fans as well. I was lucky enough to watch the EFL Awards, or just that part that his award featured on. And they played out that video package, and his brothers featured in it as well. And so, he signed every autograph after games and was sometimes there for hours afterwards.
Oh, the last game that he ever did at Adams Park, he was there for ages signing autographs. Then got on a helicopter because he's that cool. But yeah, he was there for ages. He would have been there all night if he had to sign everyone.
You said we were going to go to the training ground in a helicopter.
Yeah, that's still maybe next week.
Oh, really?
Maybe for the last one, yeah.
Yeah, it's our last training ground trip next week.
I know, sad, isn't it? I don't know how it's also gone so quickly. We're at the end of the season already.
Yes, much to look forward to. So we've got the last home game and the last home game for the car park crew, as I don't think they're called.
Is that what we're called? Yeah, we'll be there on Saturday from 12 for the last one, and then obviously Portsmouth on Sunday. And fingers crossed, something special for the last one as well.
Oh, very exciting. Teasing us.
Thank you. Yeah, lots still to come on this show as well over the next couple of weeks.
Talking of something special, yes. Make sure you don't miss that. Finally then.
Finally? Who's he? Is
finally. Phil's been speaking to the manager ahead of Saturday's game.
We're a few days on now from the home defeat against Lincoln. How are we feeling?
Okay, we're okay. I think we've had time to take our medicine and think about a lot, and we've analysed a lot over the weekend. We're obviously disappointed after the result on Saturday. We were a bit flat, but it's important we pick ourselves up. It's a new beginning for us, and I think we're looking forward to trying to move this club forward. I'm really excited about what the future might look like. It's been great to have some time with the owner, with Rob, this week, make plans for the future, and I'm really excited about what the future may bring.
And the game against Cheltenham, the final home game of the season, always a special moment to reflect and give thanks to the fans as well. Yeah, it's really important. I think I've done it for a number of years now here, and it's really important to take that moment to say thank you from our side, more for them. They follow us up and down the country, coming in all weathers, and it might sound like lip service, but it's not. It's a genuine thank you to them for what they do for us, the support they give us. We really want to make sure we finish well on Saturday at Adams Park. It's a lovely place to play football. It's a great place to play, and we want to make sure we go and put on a show for them. You mentioned that Rob, the chairman, is over, and you've been having some good talks this week as well. Is that very much now looking forward already to next season and planning? Yeah, most certainly so. I think that there's always been both eyes set on the end of the season this year, but as soon as that door closes, you have to move on really, really quickly. I've spent all weekend and the early part of this week putting a lot of time into the planning for next year. We've had some real good open, honest conversations with Rob, and we're really excited about where this club can go. I think it's been under incredible leadership under the old gaffer for so many years, and it's time for us to be in a new beginning. I'm really looking forward to making this job my own and this team and squad my own. And like I say, we're excited for the plans we've got, and we're looking forward to implementing them. It's a long season and so much happens within the football season, but from your own personal point of view, it's been a huge season as well, much change and what have you. But without the playoffs, it means that it's a proper pre-season, and Wycombe haven't had that for a few years. No, it's been a while, because of the pandemic and promotion, relegation, all the rest of it. It's been a topsy-turvy few years. I think it's time for us to take breath, really assess who we are and how we're going about stuff. It's been an emotional season for myself, going away, coming back, and everything that entails. I've absolutely loved the roller coaster this season has brought, and with that brings a real clear, a clarity to my thoughts. I think I've had time to think this week, taken some time to really digest what's been going on. Obviously, to do that, the drive I've spoken about before gives me some real time to think, and that's been great. And I'm genuinely, really excited, really energised. We have some clear plans of where we want to take the football club, and I'm really excited to put those in place. We want to finish the season strongly. We're obviously really pleased with some of the aspects of our play since we've been in the building, and we want to make sure we keep moving that forward. And I'm already looking forward to the game on Saturday. I want us to finish strongly. We've had a couple of good days on the grass. We've got to be ready to go for that and learn as much as we can over these next 2 weeks.
I think it makes you feel really positive, doesn't it? Sort of looking to the future, and the manager's got a plan.
Yeah, and not only Matt's got a plan, but the Coohigs has got a plan as well. There's a chat between Phil and Rob on Wanderers TV, if you've got that, if you've subscribed to it, talking about the season. And there's a lot planned, and the positive spin is the fact that we're not in the playoffs. All of this can now be done within the summer pre-season. We're not having to get everything done in a month. So, there's lots already starting to happen at Adams Park and getting things ready for the summer. And yeah, it's going to be a good season next year.
Yeah, something that obviously
not that this one hasn't. That's the main thing to take away. This has not been a failure of a season. We're third or fourth best season ever for Wycombe. So,
something that really comes across in that chat is obviously Rob's disappointment from not making the playoffs, but you get the feeling that the players and the whole club can kind of use that for next season. Yeah, exactly. I don't think anyone knew. If we were sitting at this point and went, well, Anderson Metti's going to leave, Gareth's going to go, we would have all gone, I'm not putting what's on our predictions, which we'll find out in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, it's been a crazy season. I'm not looking forward to the predictions. Yeah, we might just get them over and done with very quickly. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy the last home game of the season. If you're going to Adams Park. You'll be going anyway. I will be there. And we're back here at the same time next week. Have a good 7 days until then. Look out for me and Phil zip wiring at the end of the game. Oh, yes. That's definitely one to look out for. Exactly. Come on, you please. Hope it's not raining.